this recording. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm gonna do a reaction to the Nes Godzilla creepypasta, all chapters. This was recommended. I was gonna do a reaction to my old channel, but I didn't. But someone else recommended, which it was Shadow of Red. Next video will be a reaction to one of his videos, even though his channel isn't his name. Even though his channel, goddamn, why do I keep stuttering? Even though his channel name isn't Shadow Red, I just call him that. And on the videos, because that's his Discord name. But anyways, I'm gonna react to this video. It's probably gonna be my August video, or should I say it will be. So anyways, let's watch the video. Hold on. Do not disturb mode on, thank God. Okay. Hold on, fuck, hold on. Sorry guys, because, now I don't even know what the hell I'm saying, but anyways, I'm going to, start reacting more to this. My mom came in the room, so I had to pause the video. But anyways. So,
when I was a little kid, the two things I loved most in life were Godzilla and NES games. So naturally, when Godzilla Monster of Monsters came out, it was like a dream come true.
Would be cool if that actually went on Switch, like the game named Godzilla Monster of Monsters, and a Halloween edition, which is the creepypasta version. Would be cool.
Well, almost. To sum it up, most of the games revolved around getting through very repetitive outer space levels while smashing up tanks and jets, and then fighting against Godzilla's monster enemies. Overall, it was pretty mediocre, but back then I didn't care. When I got the game as a present for my 10th birthday, I played it night and day as much as I could. Unfortunately, I had traded the game for Amagon a year later, much to my regret when I found out what the game was like. Recently, I had bought a new NES system, and through a lot of hunting and asking around, my friend Billy finally managed to find a copy of Godzilla Monster of Monsters. I was pumped to play my favorite childhood game.
God damn, this fucking source is being annoying.
It never occurred to me to ask where Billy found it. He also gave me some other games like Legend of Zelda, Bomberman, and some stupid thing called Action 52. But Godzilla had come first. So I started the game, and the nostalgia came flooding back like a tidal wave. Godzilla's 8-bit theme song flooded proudly through the speakers, and I was soon grinning like an idiot. Some people laugh at me for playing such outdated games, but I've never had much enjoyment for any games other than those on the end.
Also, guys, sorry, that I'm not talking that much. Must be because I'm watching the video, but I'm still reacting to it. One of these days, I may put face cam that you guys can actually see my reaction. And now you guys can say, "Oh, it's face reveal." If you guys would have been in my other channel, you guys would have known my face. So it's no longer hidden. You guys get what I mean, but you know.
Yes. Those 8-bit games take me back to where things were much simpler, more safe. But after what's happened with this game, I don't have those feelings anymore. I had forgotten how quick the fun of smashing things as Godzilla wore off in the scrolling levels. The game bombards you with bullets and things crashing into you from every direction, and you're too big to avoid most of them. Although my last excitement had worn down some, it wasn't long at all before I got to my first boss battle. My first opponent was Godzilla, an obscure squid kaiju who had never been in the Godzilla.
Honestly, that monster is so annoying, I'm gonna be honest. Because when I was playing Godzilla Battle Royale, oh my god, that monster was so annoying. Even on easy mode, he was so annoying.
The most most annoying thing about fighting Gazora is that he always backs you into a corner and starts smashing you with his tentacle.
Yeah, that's why I was in Battle Royale also. That's my issue with him, including in the, even on the game Godzilla Battle Royale. That's like the issue. So I have to agree with this guy. That guy is real. That monster is really
And
annoying.
you're unable to move until he gets off of you. This move doesn't do any damage, but it can stall you until the timer runs out and you have to start the fight over, and he regains some health. It's as annoying as it sounds, and of course, he did it when I fought him. Only for some reason, this caused the game to glitch up, because once he started smacking me, he never stopped. The timer is supposed to end the fight
Oh,
in
that's
about 40
creepy.
seconds, but this lasted for nearly 5 minutes. After a while, the graphics started to mess up, with little red blocks all over the place. Which was weird because I just took the game out, blew on it, and then started again. I wasn't about to let a little glitch stand in my way, so I started again. This time, defeated Gizora and the level's other boss, Mogira, without any problems. So then, it was on to the next planet, Mars. I browsed around the board and found something unexpected. Where Varen's piece should have been, there was instead a piece representing Titanosaurus.
No,
There
no,
was
not
only 10 villages
Titanosaurus.
in the game, and Titanosaurus is not one of them. Or so I thought. Perhaps Titanosaurus was originally intended to be in the game, but was swapped out with Varen for some reason? So I began to feel very excited. Not only was I playing my favorite game, but I was playing a prototype of some sort of a new monster. Needless to say, I ran through the levels as fast as I could to see Titanosaurus in action. I fought Gizora again and beat him before he could do his tentacle smack. But this time the glitch started happening when he died. Gizora's sprite didn't sink to the bottom, but instead seemed to be devoured by the glitch, and his eyes started randomly spawning all over the screen. I know now these glitches with Gizora was my first warning sign that something was very wrong with this game. But foolishly I ignored it and proceeded on to fight Mogira.
I'm gonna be honest with you, but it sort of reminds me of the creepypasta Sonic.exe. You guys may not know it. Talking about the original one, not the remake. I read some of the remake. It's a bit better, but I didn't read all of it. But anyways,
Who this time had a glitch of his very own. Mogira was twice the size he should have been, which startled me. He was also considerably harder to beat than usual, which is to say, not at all. But soon as I had defeated him, and when he died, yet another glitch happened. It happened extremely fast, so I was lucky to get a screen cap of it at all. But what had happened was that the giant Mogira sprites started to shatter and melt. Also, if you looked at the garbled text at the right corner of the screen, you would notice what appeared to be a bird in a cage. I still had no idea what that meant. At
I
this
do
point,
not
I
know
was about to
anything.
fight Titanosaurus, and I was worried as to what kind of glitches would happen this time. But to my surprise, Titanosaurus looked just fine. Although all the game's bipedal monsters were at the same height, Titanosaurus was a bit taller. But since Titanosaurus actually was taller than Godzilla in his film debut, I thought this was kinda cool. After a very fun fight with the monster that wasn't supposed to be in the game, I took over the enemy base and proceeded not to Jupiter like normal, but instead to Pathos.
Oh, that's the end of chapter 1. Chapter 2 now is coming up. Titanosaurus, I don't like him. He's annoying. He's annoying. He is a fucking annoying. He is a bitch. God damn.
Pathos was the same as Jupiter in layout, except the board was dark blue rather than green. The first thing I noticed was that all the usual level icons have been replaced by a blue rock and some kind of orange honeycomb shape. There was one icon that had part of the jungle icon shape, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. I checked the other side of the board to see the new monster. Instead of Hedora, it was Biollante. But that couldn't have been right. Godzilla vs. Biollante didn't come out until 1989, and this game was made in 1988. Perhaps Toho put Biollante in the game to build excitement for the movie next year, but changed their minds. I tried to rationalize the game's abnormalities any way I could, but this would prove to be futile. Pathos' Map Song was the first new song I heard in the game. Like most of the new songs, it was hard to describe, but I'll try.
Honestly, if that would have happened to me, I would just immediately think it's just an update, but I don't know, but you guys probably get what I mean. And I wish Biollante was in the Monsterverse. Even though she was supposed to be in Godzilla King of the Monsters, she never made it to the movie. Damn it. Damn Toho.
It started out slow and suspenseful, much slower than any song in the game. But every 12 seconds or so, there would be a loud clashing sound, and the tempo changed. It was like the composer randomly played parts from 5 different songs with the same instruments. I moved Godzilla over to one of the many blue rock icons that had replaced the jungle icons at the start of the level. The level resembled a blue mountain range with a blood-red planet in the sky. But there was something odd about the mountains. They had a shredded paper look to them. I thought at first maybe the glitch had affected them, but it looked far too intentional to be true. I quickly noticed something else about this new level. There were no enemies at all. Not even any obstacles. I should also mention that this was where the point meter started to become glitched beyond comprehension, but it didn't bother me much. I never keep up with game points anyway. So without having to focus on anything, I listened to the music while walking through the level unopposed. The music had a sorrowful feel to it. It would have been rather pleasant had I heard it in a normal game. The level went on for 3 screens, but with no obstacles around it, and I finished it very quickly. I tried other levels of the same type to see if any enemies appeared, but there were none. There was little else to be seen in the Blue Mountains, so I tried the other level type. I started one of the orange levels, and my eyes were assaulted with a grotesque background of tumorous orange eyes.
What the
sky
fuck?
was the same as the ground, so I had assumed the game was indicating that this level takes place in a cave. The only enemies here were Matango spawn, but as you can see, the little bastards were everywhere. The music certainly didn't help, with a mixture of screeching sounds and loud drum beats that sounded like a monster's theme in a horror film. After completing it, I tried to avoid playing through any more of these levels whenever I could. The map was short, so it was only a few minutes before I was headed towards a rematch with Gezora and Mogira. But this time, the sprites and attack patterns were vastly different. I fought Mogira first. Mogira's replacement was a flying machine with a slight resemblance to a pesca.
What the fuck? That is not Mogira. That thing looks fucking stupid.
Alien. It was a bit like fighting Mothra, only it moved with a lot more grace. It attacked by spinning its front tentacles like a corkscrew, and it still had an eye beam, except now it fired from the drill. This lanky apparition has replaced Gezora, and the new beast was far more of a challenge. It would run and jump at a fast pace, constantly swinging its arms around, making it hard to get close. And of course, it tried to pin me in a corner with as much annoying resolve as ever. I defeated it using a combination of tail whips and a heat beam spamming. I defeated them and went to go fight Titanosaurus. But when I started the fight, Titanosaurus was nowhere to be seen, and the game simply went back to the map with the
Yeah, fuck Titanosaurus.
Titanosaurus piece now missing.
No offense to Titanosaurus fans.
There was no one left to fight now but Biollante, so I eagerly started the battle. I was quite surprised that Biollante started the fight in her rose form. She was immobile and used tentacles to keep me away from the main body, which took the most damage. As expected, she turned into her final form after taking enough damage. Spite looked pretty damn good for 8-bit. The battle technique was the same, except now Biollante could move, a bite slower than any other monster. Being hit by the tentacles did more damage now, and Biollante could do an acid spit, which I managed to avoid by jumping into the screen cap. Not much more difficult to beat than Titanosaurus. It only took 2 rounds. But when Biollante was gone, music had stopped, and there was a new icon replacing the base. This icon wasn't there before I beat Biollante. It resembled a red tribal mask, and I had a feeling of dread when I saw it. But since it replaced the base, it must be the only way to exit Pathos. I moved Godzilla to the square and started the level. It was a hellish-looking place with no sky and a flickering fire in the background. The fire looked far more advanced than anything I've seen on the NES. There was music in the form of a slow, steady drum sound resembling a heartbeat. All the text on the top of the screen and the life bar were gone. In their place was a single bit of text in the middle of the screen that said, "Run." My feeling of dread had intensified. I cautiously
I think this is when red appears, I'm guessing. I don't know. Like I said, sorry I'm not speaking that much. If I would have had like face cam on, you guys would still be enjoying this. I guess that's how you say. I don't know.
walked through the level, but like the Blue Mountains, there were no enemies. I paced around for a minute before thinking, run? From what? The first time it hit me, I didn't even see it. I heard a noise outside my room and turned back to see if something fell. And when I looked back, Godzilla was dying. I figured it must have been a glitch, but I wasn't going to play through a game without Godzilla, so I restarted the game and went to the password screen. Have I ever mentioned how creepy the password screen music is? If you've played the game, you'll know what I mean. It doesn't at all fit the mood of the game. It's more like something from a horror game. Maybe they made it so that kids won't cheat. I was
Probably.
quite annoyed at this point, but I thought I was going to have to fight all the monsters again. But that didn't happen. The game started me off right where I was before I stared at the red face level. So I tried again, making sure to pay attention this time. That's when I heard a low bellowing sound.
What the
And then I
fuck?
saw it.
Yep, red. That's red.
Thing. Do you know that feeling your body has when you feel like you're in extreme danger? You start to recoil
Yes, actually.
and tense up as the adrenaline flows through your veins and your nerves start to feel very cold. That's the feeling I had when I took this screen cap. I haven't seen all the Godzilla movies, but I'm pretty damn sure this wasn't in any of them. I had to do something. It had to be something the creators made up. But what kind of sick fuck would put this in a children's game?
Well, maybe a guy who's on drugs.
By sheer dumb luck, or perhaps the adrenaline boost, I managed to run fast enough to get away from it. It ran very fast, so much so that if you saw it, you were almost certainly going to die. And when I say die, I mean your monster gets killed instantly if the creature touches them. Once I had gone back to the map, I was so afraid that I was extremely tempted to just shut the game off and try to pretend this never happened. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. It couldn't have been real. And even if I wanted to continue, I still had to get Mothra through this chase level. But as I stayed inactive on that map screen for a few minutes, my fear was replaced by burning curiosity. What the hell just happened? What was the rest of the game like? I only had to beat this level with Mothra, and then it was on to the next one. But when I moved Mothra to the red face, the game registered it as me beating the level. I was quite relieved. I tried to prepare myself for the next world. Trance.
Is this chapter? Yeah, it's chapter 3. It's chapter 3. Well, that was creepy. I'm gonna be honest, but anyways.
I was still pretty shook up from the last level when I started Trance. Trance's map music did nothing to ease the tension either. As for how to describe it, have you ever heard of the theme from Videodrome? That's the closest thing I can think of it to compare it to. I checked to see who the new monster was, and it was Orga, a monster who didn't make his debut until 2000, appearing in a game.
Actually, the movie actually came, Godzilla 2000 actually came out in 1998, not 2000, even though I was confused. Apparently it was 1999. Yeah. I guess that's a mistake. But I could be confused, so I was confused too. So anyway, let's just continue this creepypasta.
Game made in 1988. So much for my theories about Titanosaurus and Biollante. There's no way this game was made in 1988. Those guys at Toho may be smart, but I'm sure they couldn't see that far into the future. If they could, they never would have gave Roland Emmerich the rights to make a Godzilla movie. No. This has to be a hack of some kind, which just opened up even more questions. Who made this hack? When? How? And most importantly, why? Why was the question that bothered me most. My immediate assumption was to think Billy did this to pull a joke on me, but that couldn't be right either. Billy didn't know how to make a ROM hack. And even if he did, he'd probably just do something simple and stupid, like replacing all the monsters with crudely drawn genitalia. Unless Billy had amazing game editing skills and a serious dark streak to his imagination that he never told me about. He couldn't have made this. Is it possible to put a hacked ROM into a cartridge? Aside from all that, my eye was drawn to a new icon on the map. A question mark. I was really curious as to what it did. I'm sure you're also curious, so I'll explain the quiz.
Yeah, I'm also curious right now.
Levels now, since this was when they started appearing. There was one of these per map from here on, and they always appeared near the start of the map. When you start on a quiz level, you appear on a screen like this. As you can see, there's a question at the top of a yes and no button, and an emote.
That creep looks, that face looks so creepy. It looks like he's like, what?
Icon in the center. I refer to the emoticon as
yeah, you guys can probably hear my mom tell me better.
face. Creative, I know. And for convenience, I'll refer to face as the one asking the questions. The music for the quiz levels was a track actually in the game. It's the one that plays when you try to use the Ghidorah cheat and get sent to an unplayable level. Face asks you 12 yes or no questions, and you move your monster to the buttons for your answer. When you answer, the question disappears and Face changes expressions for about 8 seconds. Then he goes back to neutral and a new question comes up. There was no time limit, nor any right or wrong answers. Face has no respect for the player's personal boundaries and will sometimes ask deeply disturbing and personal questions.
Oh, that's so fucking creepy.
Do you like hurting people? Have you ever killed or raped anyone?
What the fuck? What the fuck? Damn it. Okay, that's a big creep, but at the same time it's a bit funny.
Have you been molested by a family member? Other times, he would ask questions that were either mind-numbingly stupid, like, is the sun hot or is water wet? Or just flat-out ridiculous questions like, does your dog like the president? And maybe once per quiz, Face would ask you a question about the game. With one exception, Face's expression changes seem to have no effect on the game, except for indicating what the game creator thought of your answer.
Oh.
His reactions rarely made any sense, and at first I thought they were randomly generated. The questions never followed a pattern. Face never stayed on the same subject for more than 2 questions. Early on, there were questions that made me think Face was building up to something, only to then ask some stupid garbage. Here are the expressions of Face that I saw while playing. I'll separate them into 2 categories, the expressions I understood and the expressions I didn't. First are the expressions I understood. 1 is neutral, his default expression. 2 is angry. If you try to attack Face, his expression changes to this, but nothing else happens. 3 is sad. 4 is happy. 5 is sick. 6 is maniacal. Face made this expression when he was being an asshole. You'll see what I mean later.
That's funny.
7 is surprised. 8 is love. 9 is annoyed. 10 is confused. And 11 is guilty or hurt.
Or sad.
And here are the others. 2 of them only appeared once, number 1 and number 12. And I suspected they might have been in-jokes from the creator. Their respective questions were, do you like ice cream? And are you a tough guy? As for questions in the first quiz, luckily I had a notepad and pen handy. I have problems remembering things, so I often carry one around to jot things down. And sometimes I doodle in it when I'm bored. So when the first quiz started, I thought I'd record what happened. I'm glad I did. Here are the first series of questions, my answers, and Face's reaction. Do you like the game? Yes. Are you afraid? Yes. Are you over 18? Yes. Do birds have teeth? No. Is peanut butter good? No. Does the moon rotate? Yes. Have you had a job? Yes. Do you like hurting people? No. Is the sun hot? Yes. Do you like dogs? Yes. Is the president good? Yes. Does your dog like the president? No. Now that I've explained all that,
Whoop, this one's one a dog hates the president.
it's time for the gameplay. After the quiz level, I tried the new green temple icon first. Wow. Maybe this is why the game was so weird. One of the designers was clearly drugged out of his mind. Jokes aside, I was quite impressed by the graphics of this level, as disorienting as they were. But I hate those creepy, blank, staring statue faces. The
They are
music had a
creepy.
hypnotic Indian techno vibe to it. There were 2 new enemies in this level. A flying ghost-type thing with a trunk, and a bat with a horse skull for a face. They appear at random, but I was lucky to get a screen cap of them both. Then I proceeded to a blue mountain level, expecting another nice calm stroll. I took my time walking through and was completely taken by surprise when this happened. Not Mogira came speeding towards me and took off quite a bit of health with his tentacle screws.
What
It
the
only
hell?
took me 2 minutes to kill him without having to worry about a time limit. But the bosses never show up in a scrolling level in the normal game. I was worried as to what other rules the game would break. After another blue mountain stage, it was time to fight Not Baron, whose replacement was one of the most bizarre things in the game.
Look, it looks like a fucking peacock with spines.
This strange creature attacks you by kicking and also opening up his chest and firing heat-seeking missiles. I still don't get it. The missiles were sometimes a pain to deal with, but I found out that you could tail whip them out of the way. Not Baron was probably the easiest of the monster replacements. The same could not be said for Not Hedorah. Apparently, the source of the horse bats, Not Hedorah, was the most aggravating, difficult monster to fight yet. Mostly because of his special ability. He could shriek and summon a small swarm of those horse bat things. I know there's only 2 in the screen cap, but every time he did this, about 10 would arrive. The AI took advantage of the distraction and attacked twice as fast when the horse bats were flying around. Once that annoyance was over with, I went through a green temple level to kill some enemies to restore my health. Interestingly, none of the horse bats showed up after Nahidora was killed, and that was when I got an idea. If killing all the monsters makes the red face show up, what would happen if I avoid fighting Orga and go straight to the base? So I gave it a try. Unfortunately, the game told me that there was no monster there when I tried to start the base level, and immediately afterward, the game took control of my Godzilla piece and moved it in front of Orga. My little trick didn't work, so I tried to prepare myself for another chase. But first, I had to beat Orga. The fight with Orga confirmed another thing. Whoever created this game hack was clearly a Godzilla fan. Not only because they picked a monster like Orga, but because they actually implemented something that happened in Godzilla 2000. In a really neat way, too. Orga's primary attacks were a punch and a heat beam from his shoulder cavity. But once you had him down to half his health, he did something new. He would expand his jaws and try to swallow Godzilla, in the process stealing your health and energy. But in doing so, he gave himself a new weakness. Firing a heat beam into his mouth would take a devastating 4 bars off his life meter. With that weakness revealed, I soon beat Orga. And despite how much I had hoped otherwise...
That isn't that bad. That, isn't that bad for creepypasta, even though, you know, he thinks Godzilla fan now. If that would have actually happened in real life, that part would have actually been cool.
The red face appeared on the map where the base was.
Oh,
and
fuck.
The music stopped. I readied myself as best as I could. I started the level, and seeing that it was basically the same as the first, I didn't waste a millisecond before I started hauling ass. I soon encountered obstacles in the form of the ground tiles suspended in the air. Most of them you could jump over or destroy. Others you had to crouch under. About 40 seconds into it, I heard the horrible bellowing and saw the spider beast following close behind me. Stacks of obstacles barely slowed it down. It would break up and then charge its way through them, smashing them into bits. And when the smaller obstacles got in its way, it would expand his jaws and swallow them whole. I was afraid, but with fast thinking and faster button pressing, I escaped him yet again. I felt really excited, and so I laughed and said, "Not this time, asshole!" I decided...
No, I would say, not this time, piece of shit, motherfucker, or I would say, you suck, piece of shit, or, nice try, motherfucker, or, you know, you get the idea.
Take a screen cap to celebrate. But when I said that sentence, just before the level ended, the monster did something that made my blood run cold.
Oh, fuck, I think I know what it is.
Me.
Yeah, oh, that's creepy.
That wave of mortal terror overtook me again, and I sure as hell wasn't laughing anymore. I took another screen cap of the next level title, right before I rushed to the bathroom to splash some water on my face, and to take a piss that I nearly failed to contain when that fucking thing looked at me. On to the next world. Dementia.
Chapter 4. But that was creepy. Oh my god. Imagine just playing Godzilla game. Imagine playing the PS4 game instead. You're right. Haha, you lose Ghidorah. Haha, you lose Godzilla 2014. You just come back alive and stir you in a very creepy way. Oh fuck, that'll just be creepy also. But not that creepy,
When I
because
got
you know.
back to the game, I was getting very upset and confused. I thought about the way the monster looked at me. The game couldn't have heard what I said. That's impossible. It had to be a random occurrence. But why did it happen precisely at the moment I insulted the monster? Nothing about the game made any sense. The new Godzilla monsters, The weird replacement monsters, out-of-place imagery like the green temples, quiz levels, and the red monster chases. It didn't seem to add up in any kind of meaningful way. If it was a prank, it wasn't funny in any way I could understand, and they clearly put far too much effort into it. If they were trying to make a genuine sequel with new Godzilla monsters, then why did they add everything else? Maybe it was some kind of art experiment. Some group project made by a bunch of really talented and crazy people, and they lost the cartridge somehow? Or maybe they intended for some random person to find it? It was all just fruitless guessing. As far as I could tell, there was only one way to figure out what the deal was with this game. To play it through to the end. Maybe, just maybe, there would be something in the credits. An explanation by the creators as to why they made this. Or it could be something much more cryptic and strange. Maybe even something horrifying. Before I got a good look at the dementia board, I considered replaying Trance to see if the red monster would look at me again, but I decided against it. I wanted to keep moving forward, and I was also somewhat worried that backtracking might cause the game to become even more strange. The dementia board music sounded a lot like the Saturn music, except it was slowed down and played with a piano-sounding instrument. Like most of these new map themes, it had a dangerous, suspenseful feel. While listening to the music, I looked at the dementia board. There were 4 boss monsters this time: Space Godzilla, Manda, Gigan, and Baragon. I was surprised that there were 2 new Toho monsters this time, but the best surprise was still to come. I started the quiz level. Here's another bunch of results in the same format as the last one. Can you swim? Yes. Do you like fish? Yes. Can penguins fly? No. Can it spin in all directions? There was no clarification of what Face meant by it, so I just guessed. No. Do you breathe oxygen? Yes. Does it taste good when you bite a woman? I don't know who came up with this question,
What
but I
the
really hope they're
fuck?
getting mental health. No. Is it night where you are? Yes. Do you like cats? Yes. Is water wet? Yes. Have you ever broken a bone? No. Do you like your job? Yes. Would you like a new monster? I wasn't entirely sure at the time what Face meant by new monster, but I couldn't resist answering yes, just to see what would happen. The result was mind-blowing. The game took me back to the board, and I had a new playable monster in the form of Anguirus. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to play as Anguirus, since he was my second favorite Godzilla monster. And plus, I never liked Mothra all that much anyway.
Fatality to monster, I guess, just not in a fight.
I moved my new Anguirus piece over to the level right next to it, eager to test out my new monster. Before I get into the level description, I'll talk about Anguirus a bit. Using the up and down buttons, you could choose whether Anguirus stood in a bipedal stance or crawled around on all 4. It wasn't a huge difference, but being able to stand was helpful in boss fights, and crawling sometimes helped dodge obstacles and attacks. He could punch and kick like Godzilla, but no tail whip. Instead, he had something far more interesting: the ability to curl up into a spiked ball of death and...
That is reminding me of Final Wars. Literally. If you guys seen the movie, you guys will know what I mean, but anyways.
roll around. You could still take damage, but it was lessened. It was a good way of clearing out stage enemies, but unfortunately doing this also drained the power bar. But the spike ball wasn't the only special ability. When you press start, he would fire a beam of energy from his mouth. It resembled Titanosaurus' sonar attack. And if this was a hack, it may have been inspired by the roar attack of Atari's Godzilla fighting games. Also to note is that when playing as Anguirus, the level meter gets glitched up. Judging by the life and power bar, I'd say he's on level 10. Now onto the level. As you might have guessed from the level icon, these levels are green paletted swaps of the ground and background tiles from the blue mountains. But what immediately caught my attention was the water, which has a transparency effect. Was that even possible for an NES game? I know the Super Nintendo could do it, but I had never seen a transparency effect in a game on an NES. The Green Mountains music was played with the same instrument as the Blue Mountains.
Honestly, I know you guys may get bored because I'm not talking that much, but, I don't know, honestly. I don't know, I'll see if I can talk the most I can in this video. I'll see if I can.
The melody was totally different. It was a very simple song with a lot of abrupt pauses, followed by a loud note every few seconds. Anyway, I went through the usual strolling through the level, and again there were no monsters or anything. But pretty soon I had reached a cliff above the
And then, the only thing I can think of is this scene. He pressed the roar button, Red just comes out and eats it, and that's what I think.
water. There was nowhere to go but into the water, so down I went. The water transparency made things a bit harder to see, but it's tolerable. After going underwater, I encountered two new enemies, a giant piranha and some kind of spiky bottom feeder thing. I liked the piranha because I could easily tell what it was. It was a sane enemy design that would appear in a real game, but there was very few enemies like this. They didn't take much hits to kill, but they were quite annoying, and could considerably trim down your life if they got close enough. They also tend to travel in packs. As for the bottom feeders, they're easy to deal with. They swim along the bottom of the screen towards you and are easily crushed with the roll attack or jumped over in the screen cap. You can see me about to run over one of them, and there is a pack of piranha behind it. After I beat the level, I moved Godzilla onto the blue castle icon. I started the level and I got a title screen.
Oh, I think there's gonna be a jump scare here.
Text, Unforgiving Cold.
What?
The level itself looked like a castle dungeon made of blue bricks, with rows of identical white statue faces on the walls. These statue faces had a permanent look of horror on their faces. There were also some flickering gray static, which didn't really obscure my vision, but it adds to the very unsettling mood of these levels. The music was a 12-second loop of a low-pitched choir vocalizing that sounded very familiar to me. Whenever I played through one of these levels, I got this sudden, horrible feeling of anxiety. I had the feeling that the farther I progressed through the level, the closer I was getting to something unspeakably evil. There weren't any enemies, but these were some of the longest levels in the game. I only played one level, but it took 7 minutes to complete. I didn't want to admit it to myself at the time, but I realized something playing the Blue Castle level. This game has the power to make the player feel certain things. I don't mean in the sense that you get irritated playing a crappy game,
Or get killed.
or getting unnerved by something scary in a game. What I mean is that certain events in this game can instantly make you feel something. I know this sounds completely insane, and I don't blame you for not believing me. I wouldn't believe any of this either if I didn't play the game myself. But there's something very, very wrong with this game, and I still don't know how to explain it. So, then it was time to fight Baragon's replacement. Although Baragon was originally the smallest monster
What
in the game,
the fuck?
his replacement was the...
What the fuck? Well, yeah. I've already seen Bergon. Shadow Red showed me this. And he has a gun as his penis. So what the fuck? I don't know if that was edited or if that's actually part of the thing.
largest. It was so tall, in fact, the ground was noticeably lowered, and not Baragon's head still barely avoided collision with the bar at the top of the screen, and he was just as frighteningly bizarre as he was huge. You may be wondering how he attacks without arms. Well, he has the most powerful kick in the game, but his other fighting technique is much stranger. First, he blasts a cloudy breath of pixels down at you, which causes you to freeze. Then he walks back to the right corner of the screen and extends a huge Gatling gun from his abdomen.
What the hell? Whoop, that's his penis right there.
That might seem amusing to you, but it certainly wasn't for me when I was playing this game. This attack was almost as annoying as Gigan's rotary cutter, and not Baragon could have been unbeatable if he constantly used it. Thankfully, he only did it twice while fighting me. Once you unfreeze, you can run up and start damaging the gun, which does extra damage to him. This helped me to destroy him, and then it was time to play the third level type. I decided that I was going to use Anguirus to fight Manda and Gigan, and then fight Space Godzilla as Godzilla. It was only fitting. Before getting into the battles, I'll describe the third level type, the Arctic. The Arctic is exactly what you'd guess from the name. An icy tundra with a few watery segments. The music reminded me a bit of the Northern Hemispheres from
And this is reminding me of Final Wars.
Donkey Kong Country in 8-bit form. A very dangerous sounding song. It made me think about being trapped in a tundra and freezing to death. There were two new enemies in this stage. The first was a creature frozen in a block of ice. They block your way, and you have to use the heat beam to thaw them out of the ice. They look a bit like a smaller version of Not Gazora, only without the eyes. When freed, they do a strange crawling movement and push you backwards. It doesn't cause any damage, but it is a bit annoying. After dealing with the Iceman, I kept walking for a minute or two and came upon a water segment. I jumped in, and this time I managed to get a screen cap showing how the water splashes.
Well, that's the guy just saying. You guys probably hear this. It's just my SH Monster Arts that is next to me. Right now, just do a cool pose, but at the same time watching this. But anyways,
You jump in. I don't know how they programmed that, but it's pretty impressive. Another interesting thing is how the screen changes focus when you go underwater. Here you can see the other new enemy, a
what the
little thing
fuck?
I call Spike Walker. They walk towards you and explode randomly, or instantly if you attack them, sending spikes in every direction. The spikes don't do much damage, but they did get me dangerously close to falling into a pit a few times. Oh, speaking of the pits, don't go into the water. The game has a platformer element, bottomless pits. There weren't any of these in the original game, since this was strictly an action game, but the pits were a neat addition. After getting back on land, I encountered a very unexpected mini-boss,
What the?
Maguma, the walrus kaiju.
Oh, right now
I know this
this.
game has some obscure monsters to begin with, but wow. Not that I'm complaining, it's a pretty cool cameo for an unappreciated kaiju. Maguma's fighting tactics were very simple. He had a freeze beam, and he could charge into you. Not very challenging, but certainly more entertaining than the Matango mini-boss in the original game. One really interesting thing about Maguma is that he doesn't die when you defeat him. He turns tail and retreats. This was the first time I ever seen any enemy monster change directions, let alone retreat. I tried to chase after him, but he disappeared after I got into the water. Poor bastard. And that does it for the Arctic. I'll talk about the Manda fight next. I forgot to mention before, but the music that played during the new monster fights is reused from the themes actually in the game. So far the themes have been Gazora's music for Titanosaurus, Hedorah's music for Biollante,
And got those 2000s music for Rodan, and Rodan music got those 2000s.
Baragon and Mogira's music for Orga, Varan's music for Manda, and Mechagodzilla's music for Space Godzilla. As for the fight, Manda was a fairly crafty opponent. When it realized one tactic was ineffective, it would immediately change to a different one. Manda used quite a few tricks, like spitting fire, biting, and most irritating of all, constricting. It doesn't mercilessly drain your life down like Gigan's cutter, but it was by far Amanda's strongest attack. One last thing to note that I found pretty cool was that the Atragon shows up during the fight to help me out. Amanda crushed it with ease, but it was still pretty cool. After I slayed Manda, I played through an Arctic level for health power-ups, and then it was on to Gigan's replacement. When the fight started...
Seriously, that's Gigan. Wait, that's seriously Gigan's replacement, the fucking fish. What the hell? No, this feels more like a meme. Dude, honestly, if someone made a meme of this, I would definitely look at it.
I was very confused because there was nothing there. I thought this was going to be like the Titanosaurus.
No, fuck.
Quote, fight in Pathos. But just about the time it would have been going back to the map, a piranha appeared on screen. But it wasn't there for long. As soon as it appeared, the speakers emitted an ear-splitting screech, and not Gigan flew in and ripped the poor fish to pieces.
Poor fish.
Well, that's one way to get the player on their toes. That abrupt entrance scared the hell out of me and got my adrenaline rushing, which in retrospect was a good thing, because Not Gigan was one of the fastest, most unrelenting opponents in the game. Not Gigan was tough, but my new skills with Anguirus helped to even the score. This was still an incredibly intense fight. Not Gigan's attacks consisted of some kind of blood laser he spewed from his mouth and a downward slash. I was expecting some hellish variant of the buzzsaw attack, but thankfully, there didn't seem to be one. The howl attack was invaluable in defeating him. I would have taken more screen caps in the fight, but I really had to concentrate.
Well, that's me. Well, that's how I am. Because when I take screenshots of my video and my, my videos on my Nintendo, which I post on Facebook, yeah, and images that I post on Facebook, even though I barely even done it, but you guys get what I mean. But
After that, there was just one more monster left to take down. Space Godzilla. As mentioned earlier, I used Godzilla for this fight. Space Godzilla's fighting technique was rather frustrating, but admittedly a very clever idea. Space Godzilla would use his energy to create two flying crystals, which would reach the ground and become crystal spires. These spires not only block you from reaching Space Godzilla, but it also allowed him to constantly recharge to full energy and blast you with a deadly full-charged Corona beam until you broke the spires. Space Godzilla would eventually drain his own spires for energy until they shattered, but if you waited for that to happen, you'd probably lose a lot of life. Heat beams actually seem to re-energize the spires, so you have to use physical attacks. When you finally got close enough to hit Space Godzilla, he was no pushover. When I punched him, he hit me back just as hard. Space Godzilla does everything in his power to knock you back to the left corner of the screen so he can create more spires. By the time this was over, I only had about 5 life bars left, but it didn't matter, because I didn't need to fight anymore. I needed to run. Here we go again.
oh fuck this bitch again.
There that I really wanted to see the end of this game. As terrifying as these levels could sometimes be, I had to beat them to get through. I decided that no matter what happened, no matter what the game showed me, I was going to get to the end. And I almost made sure not to say a damn word when playing a chase level from here on. For this chase, I tried out Anguirus, since his roll attack allowed me to move faster than Godzilla or Mothra. The chase started off like the first two, except there was a river of blood below the ground. I was beginning to get the hang of it, and the extra speed of the roll helped me get an edge on the mental monster, especially since I didn't have to worry about a power limit and could keep rolling endlessly. Like the previous levels with water, the ground inevitably reached a stop, so I rolled off into the blood. To my surprise,
Yeah, it is. It's still creepy, but not that creepy.
The hellbeast didn't follow after me. It just stopped at the edge of the ground and grimaced.
Pussy.
I guess it can't swim, I thought to myself. So I went under blood and continued moving. There wasn't anything around, but I knew something was up. The chase wasn't going to end that easily, could it? Surely something else had to show up, and sure enough, I heard the bellowing roar, sounding slightly different. And the monster followed after me with a new aquatic body. I had no idea it was a shapeshifter. After it reappeared, the chase started to get into the difficulty I had expected. Being submerged slowed me down, putting me and the beast at about the same speed. The only thing that would keep me alive was fast thinking and reflexes. I encountered some bottomless pits in which mines floated up from. I assumed that if you hit one, it would damage you and knock you back. Considering how fast the red monster swims, hitting the mines would be instant death. So I went through great effort to avoid them. But that wasn't all I had to be wary of. Halfway through the chase, the hell beast revealed yet another surprise.
He gave another surprise, showing off, if you know what I mean.
Tentacle formed of intestine and tipped with a clawed set of jaws burst from its mouth.
What the fuck?
Trying to pull me in and devour me. I only barely avoided both the tentacle and the mines, but I could tell the beast was getting desperate because the chase was nearly over. And about a minute later, I had spotted a bit of ground that served as the exit. I leaped with all the might I could muster. The beast screamed with rage and jumped out of the blood river with one last attempt to drag me down. But I escaped its grasp.
Yeah, he's a bitch.
This time. I fell back onto my bed and took a deep breath, satisfied and yet another successful escape. Now I was headed onto the fifth world. Entropy.
This is another chapter, isn't it? Yeah, chapter 5. What how many worlds are there?
In the original game, the sixth world was Pluto. Ironically, despite being the smallest planet, Pluto was the largest and most diverse world in the game. Entropy has a different layout, but was similarly huge and diverse. The board music was played by a violin instrument, a melody that started out sounding mournful, and then it gets rather, I guess I would call it, distorted. It made me feel depressed and unnerved, not something I would want to hear while trying to sleep.
But they can put in a bad ending on the movie.
Strangely, none of the levels from the previous worlds were present here. Instead, there were 8 brand new icons. The bosses this time were Megalon, Batra, and Mecha Godzilla. As usual, the first thing I did was go to the quiz level for another interrogation from Vase.
Honestly, this isn't creepy anymore. I'm gonna be honest. It feels more like he's playing a demo, but at the same time, it's like.
But when I got there, I noticed something different. Instead of the usual goofy Ghidorah music, it was the password theme. The music change seems to be intentional, because after the first 2 questions at the start, the question started to take on a darker tone. Do you like ice cream? Yes. Do you like clowns? Yes. Is time slipping through your fingers?
What the fuck?
Yes. Do you have any regrets? Yes. Do some people deserve to die? No. Is it safe to go out at night? Yes.
What the fuck?
Do you find it hard to sleep at night? Yes. Have you ever killed anyone? No. Do you want to kill anyone? No. Are you actually accomplishing anything? No. Does life have any real meaning? No. Do you like Mothra? I knew that last one was going to be a gameplay-related question, but I had no idea what the result would be. I answered honestly, because as I've said before, I never liked Mothra. Nobody liked playing as Mothra in this game, and there was a good reason for that. Every other time Mothra gets hit, she gets slammed back to the corner of the screen, and
that's just gonna be annoying.
she sucks at fighting because her attacks are so weak. The only
Well, now I understand why people hate her in the game.
benefit Mothra had was being able to fly over obstacles in some levels. So I answered no, and Face actually replied back to me. Not only with the maniacal expression, but with the text, "Too bad." I was taken back to the map screen, and I was shocked to see that Godzilla and Anguirus have disappeared from the board, leaving only Mothra. Face had just fucked me over. Needless to say, I was pissed. But there wasn't anything I could do. And I'm willing to bet that even if I had said yes, I would have been stuck with Mothra anyway. Face giveth, and face taketh away. I took a deep breath and got ready to explore. There were two paths I could take through the board. I decided to take the lower one. This turned out to be a good choice for reasons I'll get to momentarily. The first world ahead of me was a forest. So I started there. Almost immediately, I got an eerie feeling there was something about this level that just seemed off to me, even more than the previous ones. Perhaps it was the pitch black background. I've always been afraid of being in a forest at night. Something about all those trees make me feel surrounded and
Yeah, sometimes that happened to me.
vulnerable. And the fact that I was stuck as Mothra didn't help either. Playing the game's previous worlds as Godzilla gave me a feeling of bravery. Being in control of the king of the monsters, I'd be able to handle just about anything in my way. But it's not like that with Mothra. No feeling of strength or security. Now I'm just a weak, easily overwhelmed bug traversing into the unknown. Back to the level, the music had new instruments, sounding like woodwinds, followed by a slow rhythmic drums and chiming bells. It gave me this feeling that I was intruding into some dangerous place I really should not be. After a while, I encountered the first enemies of the stage. Or at least, I assumed they were enemies. They were strange, long-legged deer-like creatures. Instead of attacking, they were just idly walking around. I went to approach them, and they ran away. I thought about shooting one with an eye beam to see what would happen, but it seemed wrong. These creatures were harmless, so I passed over them and continued.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Not killing these poor creatures.
The level. About halfway through, I encountered a group of deer-like animals, and also two new creatures. A sloth-like creature with a beak climbing on a tree, and hairy raptor-esque creatures that were preying on the deer. It was very surreal watching these creatures interact.
What the hell?
I didn't feel like I was playing a video game, but rather that I was traveling through a forest in some other dimension. The creatures ignored me for the most part, although the raptors did attack me when I got too close, or if I attacked them first. I know I shot one of them to help one of the deer creatures escape. I got clawed at, but confrontation was easily avoided by flying up to the top of the screen. At first I had to choose whether I wanted to play the levels with the hourglass or the TV screen. I picked the latter. What I got was not at all what I was expecting. When I pressed the button to start a level on the TV screen, like I normally would, this screen with an animation popped up.
What the
There was
hell?
also music in the background, which was the goofy Ghidorah music that used to be playing in the quiz levels. I was somewhat unsettled by this because it was just so strange. I also found it a bit spooky because I had a shirt that looked just like that when I was a kid. After starting the animation, you could go back to the board by pressing any button. After that, I had no idea what to expect for the rest of these icons. I went to try an hourglass icon next. I was somewhat relieved when an actual level came up. It was certainly an unorthodox looking level. All brown with time-measuring instruments floating in the air and gigantic grandfather clocks in the background. The music was the same as the board screen. And very early in the level, I encountered something else I didn't expect to see. Original enemies from the game. And not just that, it seemed to be a whole fleet of them, and the yellow tanks, which were normally immobile, could move now. I took some damage, but it was nothing I couldn't handle. But the most interesting thing about this level was the colored hourglass items. There were 3 of these. 1, a blue hourglass.
2, who is black for Godzilla.
That made time slow down and filled the level with enemies from the past. 2, a red hourglass that made time speed up and filled the level with enemies from the
And for red.
future. And 3, a green hourglass that set time to a normal speed and filled the level with the original game enemies. I encountered the blue hourglass first. As stated, the game started to slow down and I saw the enemies from the past, which were 5 different types of prehistoric animals. I don't know much about prehistory, but I believed all of these enemies represent real animals. The level went into another segment and I encountered the green hourglass, and then I fought the original enemies again. It was the same 5 types, so I didn't take any screenshots. But in the last segment, I encountered the red hourglass, and the enemies that must have been from the future. Now, whether or not the game was showing me 8-bit renditions of creatures that will actually exist thousands of years into Earth's future, I have no idea. But with that thought in mind, I found this particular segment to be very eerie, and it was made more tense because everything moved faster. One of the future enemies bore a striking resemblance to something I saw in a book once called Truden Man. Another looked like some kind of organic spaceship. There was only one of the 5th type of future creature, and when it appeared, all the others ran for their lives, leaving me alone to battle it. It could fly, but its sprite didn't actually move, and its single attack was firing a lightning bolt from its face. Even so, it was surprisingly powerful, and I suppose it could be considered a mini-boss. After defeating it, it left a health power-up that restored the health and energy I had lost fighting it, which was convenient. It seemed I would need all the help I could get to beat this world with Mothra alone. After that previous stage I call Time Warp, the next stage appeared to be a toxic waste dump.
I guess a hetero reference. Like I said, guys, so I'm really sorry I'm not speaking that much. But I have nothing to say, I'm just watching it, but someone requested it, so yeah.
As you can see, the place looks grungy and inhospitable. The music was a short looping of an ambient synthesizer song. Listening to it makes me feel like I have sniffed some toxic fumes myself, and it was messing with my head the whole time. I even felt like I was choking while playing this level. The enemies all seem to be mutated to some degree. In the above screenshot, you can see green mummies with bird skulls that jump out of the waste.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna end the video here. I may do a 3-part or a 2-part, I don't know. But anyways, guys, enjoy this video. We like and subscribe, turn on notifications so you guys never send a upload. Yeah, comment down below. Oh, if you guys want a shout out and what was your favorite part. Sorry, I'm acting with this right now, just a bit tired. Good. I'm just gonna take a screenshot. That way I can know what time I was, but anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. It's great Alex saying, but anyways, see you guys in the next one. What the hell? Why is it not letting me up? Oh, finally. But anyways, like I said, see ya. God damn it! No, fuck. Oh my god! What is wrong with you? Oh my god, finally. See you guys.